I did not believe that this could be real. And I have to say that because in the beginning I was very skeptical, okay, right? He can sit without food and water under a tree like this at 15 years old. Like, nobody can do this, right? This is what I thought. It's physically impossible, and I just forgot about it. And actually many years then went by like this way. There was this deep longing. I think that was like really from the depth of my heart, like this longing to find the truth, right? Something more ultimate. And so I was looking everywhere. He practiced extreme austerities, hardships, very intense meditation, right? And actually when I saw him again, I was amazed, and I could feel from seeing, and I think everybody in Nepal saw this, really. I think everybody knows that this is true and he did this. I think it's very clear. This was real, what he was doing. There was no trick at the end, right? Like, his meditation was genuine. The Sangha of Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru, like his disciples, everybody really radiates this feeling very strongly, actually. I truly feel that this Guru and this Sangha is really going to change this entire world in ways that right now we really can't fathom. So, hello to everybody who is happens to end up seeing this video. Before I start speaking and sharing my experience and like whatever it is that I feel would be maybe helpful and maybe necessary to say, I just want to take a minute and really pay homage to all of the really great enlightened beings, the great masters, all the Buddhas and the Paramatma Gurus, all the enlightened consciousness energies that have been very kind. So just paying homage to all of them and requesting for their blessings, and with the really sincere prayer that the reason for sharing this and the reason for speaking, it's really just for the benefit of all beings, really, and for this world. And I think that the truth, right, is really important. What is true and what is false, maybe. So maybe this can help just from me sharing my own experience. That's all that I can really offer, is my experience and my understanding, right? And so maybe by offering this, it can be helpful in some way. And I feel that with the way that things are going right now, it's kind of necessary to speak, it's kind of necessary to share, and I want to do my part to contribute to that. And the thing is, I thought of, I had to make some notes. I know that many other people, they made very nice videos sharing, just completely without using any like notes or something, but I had some kind of ideas of what I wanted to remember to include in my sharing. And so because of that, I'm gonna be referencing a little bit. Sometimes I'll try not to use it too much, but a little bit, some notes here and there. So I'll just check, and then I will start just with my experience. Yeah. Yeah. So as I said, I just want to pay homage to all of the great gurus, enlightened beings, the Bhagwan, Paramatma Gurus, and so on. And I really sincerely make this wish and aspiration for the purpose of doing this is like for the kind of all beings to be able to attain freedom and liberation, right? What we call mukti and moksha. So that's the intention behind this. And then the other thing I should say is, like, whatever I'm saying here, it's really just my personal take, my thoughts, my opinions, and my perspective. And I'm just like one individual person, and many would say maybe a very foolish person, actually. So it's good to just take whatever I say with a grain of salt, and it's just my experiences and my thoughts. And so just with that being said, I think it's important to say that in the beginning, that I'm only sharing one person's opinion and views, and that's just my own. And so that's what I have to share, and that's what I'm offering, basically. And so yeah. So I think that the reason for making this video, right, is given what's been happening with Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru in Nepal, right? We've all, I think many people have seen the news, what's happened, and I have been connected with Guru for now many years, right? And it's difficult in a way for me to see what's happening. It's really somehow not surprising, I have to say, not surprising, but it's painful. It's difficult to see this, the way that he's being treated in Nepal, the way that his disciples are being treated, the way the Sangha is being treated. And so I thought that I will just share my experience, right? I'll just share, I've been around this community, I've been around this Guru, I've been around this Sangha, and sometimes quite close. And so I think what I can offer is just to share my experience and like how I made the connection and what I've seen, right? I can't comment or say anything that I haven't seen. I can only say like what I've seen. So I think that's also important to point out. So actually, okay, the first time I ever heard about this guru, at that time he was quite young, I think, right? He was doing his meditation, he was sitting under the tree, and it really became very famous at that time. There was many mainstream sort of Western and I'm sure Nepali domestic media outlets were going crazy with this coverage, right? There was this boy, he was sitting under a tree without food and water, meditating for many months, I think at the time already, maybe 10 months had passed by, and it was getting coverage everywhere, right? Like I remember there was even this show, like this TV show back in the day early on, it was like The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. It was like a really popular show in America, like everybody used to watch, right? And they had this segment at the end of the program, they would call, it was called like the Moment of Zen segment. And they did a feature about Guru one time, this boy in Nepal meditating under the tree, like, is it true? What's going on with that, right? And so that was kind of in many ways, the first time ever in my life I ever heard about him, really. And I have to be completely honest here, really, I have to say, truthfully, the first time I saw this, okay, I thought for sure this is fake. This is a hoax, right? I did not believe that this could be real. And I have to say that because in the beginning, I was very skeptical, okay? At this time, I was probably maybe 15 years old, around there, maybe a little younger, older, I can't exactly remember. But at that time, I was actually very, very skeptical, very sort of logical. You know, you could even say I was more in this path of like kind of looking for a scientific explanation for everything, right? And I had grown up with religion, actually. Like my family, my parents are from India originally, Muslim, so I grew up with the Muslim tradition. And for a long time in my youth, I was like very involved in that tradition and I was practicing it. And then somehow in my early teenage years, I drifted away from that. yeah, and kind of fell into this completely what you might call a materialistic, mundane, like non-spiritual world view, right? And there was a lot of at that time, I was young, I was in high school, I was like doing a lot of like debating, right? Like I was like on the debate team in the high school, and like everything was like about reasoning and logic and like having an argument and proof, right? Evidence. That was always a big important fact. So I saw this meditating boy, and I just brushed it off completely. I have to say this. I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, it's completely impossible. There's no way that this can be real, right? He can sit without food and water under a tree like this at 15 years old. Like, nobody can do this, right? This is what I thought. It's physically impossible, and I just forgot about it. And actually many years then went by like this way. Maybe something like 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years or so, right? So from the time I was 15 until the time maybe I was 19 or 20 or something like that, I never thought about Guru, Dharmasangha. Never really crossed my mind after that. I just kind of put it away in a compartment in my mind, and it didn't really come up again until much later. And by that time, when I sort of reconnected, right, I had already, my mind had changed a lot at that time. Like I was already finding my own way back into a spiritual path in life, I guess. I was on my own, sort of trying to figure out what the truth was, really. That's what I was looking for, the truth. I wanted to know what was true. And I spent enough time in all of this system of debating and logic and science and rational thinking, like all this stuff, to the point where I actually realized, like, this is not really where the deep truth is to be found. I mean, yes, on a surface level, there are some benefits for sure, and that's not to be denied, right? Like we talk about the system of the two truths, like the relative and ultimate truth. So I think I was more curious about something deeper, right? Like a deeper truth, something more ultimate. And so I was looking everywhere. I was reading a lot of different Dharma sort of spiritual traditions. I read a lot of Buddhist teachings, and actually Taoism, the Chinese Taoist teachings. I was very drawn to that, actually, very, very drawn. In fact, I even, maybe because of this reason, and I was like also like into the poetry and whatever, I started studying Chinese language, right, in the university, Chinese language, Chinese culture, and I think a lot of that was like connecting with these traditions of like the Buddhist and the Taoist teachings, and trying to go deeper into all of that. So anyway, so all of that is basically to say that there was this deep longing, I think, that was like really, really from the depth of my heart, like this longing to find the truth, right? And so later on, I saw this video again, maybe on YouTube or something. It just came up, like, remember this boy that had meditated under this tree without food and water for 6 years? And somehow it came up, and I saw like what he looked like several years later. His hair was longer, and he had spoken, right? He had given some teachings after he completed the 6 years tapasya meditation, where he practiced extreme austerities, hardships, very, very intense meditation, right? And actually, when I saw him again, I was amazed, and I could feel from seeing just the kind of his energy, what he was actually saying when he was speaking, his teachings, and maybe I was more ready also mentally. I was in a more of a ready place to be able to receive something true. So at that time, I was amazed. I couldn't believe that this was real, and it was real. I mean, you know, we had Western sort of Discovery Channel and Western media outlets. They came and they filmed him continuously 24/7 around the clock. and he wasn't eating, he wasn't drinking. Not only that, he wouldn't even lie down at night to sleep, right? He was continuously 24/7 in this meditation. And I think everybody in Nepal saw this, really. I think everybody knows that this is true, and he did this. I think it's very clear. Everybody saw this in Nepal. We know this. Like, we saw that this was real, what he was doing. There was no trick at the end, right? Like, his meditation was genuine. And when I came back to that, I was really so moved. I mean, I was in tears when I would see his videos, and I was just watching them like every day. There was only a few videos of him at that time, but especially there's one video I remember where he was like, there was like fire, when he was meditating, sort of this fire manifested, and then he was like sitting in the fire and meditating, and his clothes had burned and his hair had burned, and he was just sitting there meditating. And I was like, I just wanted, really, and that same, my old mind sort of kicked in, like, I wanted to know how, right? How is this possible? How can a human being do what Guru has done, demonstrated openly in front of everybody? So I was, in a way, still very curious, but my curiosity was different. Like, it was inspired by a very, very genuine reverence, a faith, a kind of a curiosity, a kind of a longing, and an openness to understand, right? I didn't have closed notions about Guru, about he is this, or he is this, or he is that. I was completely shocked, and I was open, and I was very moved. I had goosebumps, I was crying, like, I was completely, they described later on what I came to understand, like, when there's a karmic connection between a guru and, a student or whatever. So there was incredibly strong feeling there. And so kind of, okay, that's how it started. And then there was, at that time I was trying to find any information or whatever I could find online about this guru, right? And there wasn't very much available. But I saw that there was this guy called Jampa Dorje, who was a disciple of Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha of Guru. And he had stayed in the jungle with him, and he was in America at that time with this like married couple called Ganga and Tara, and they were sort of going around on this tour, and it was called like the Seeds of Loving Kindness tour. And basically he was speaking to people, small groups in various places, about his experience with having met Dharmasangha, sharing his just kind of sharing from his heart about like what he had seen, what he had experienced, and what was going on. And so at that time I was really, really kind of curious and really desperate to know more and to connect, to try to make a connection. I was feeling this really, really strong urge to connect, like with the Sangha, with this Guru, and just to see for myself like how it's possible, what's going on, like what is the Dharma that he is teaching, and all these things I really wanted to know. And so with this intention, like in my heart, right, I sent an email to this like Seeds of Loving Kindness tour, like I think they had an email address, and they said in one of the videos, at the end of the video, they said like, oh, if you want us to come to your place, to your town or your city, like just send us an email, And so at that time I was living in Olympia, Washington. I was going to school at a university over there. And so I sent an email, and I said to them, like, I'm in Olympia, Washington, and I would love to meet you guys. Like, I would love to meet and connect, and I really feel like somehow connected with this guru, and I would love to know more about Jampa Dorje's experience, and just to like meet them in person and connect. So I sent this email, and I was really thinking like there's no way there would be a response, and they have this tour and it's going to be like busy, and maybe they already have everything planned and set. Like I didn't think there would be any response coming back, right? And actually, to my quite actually surprise, like I think within 24 hours, I received a response, and they said like Jampa Dorje and Ganga and Tara, they said like, yeah, like, oh, you know, you live in Olympia, we're kind of in the area, we can come. Like they gave me some dates, some time that would be like work good for them, and they said like we can come. And we would love to speak, and they were like, can you find a venue, like some kind of place where we can do the presentation? And I was so excited. I was completely surprised that they responded in the first place. And so I asked around, and we organized, there was like a yoga studio in Olympia where they allowed us to use the space and make a program for this presentation. And so that time, Jampa Dorje came to Olympia, and he gave his presentation, kind of his he was just sharing really like what he had seen, like what he understood Guru to be, and what was his experience basically. And there's a lot of like heart feeling that was being shared at that time, and I think everybody that met him like really felt that actually. And somehow we made a good connection. That time we talked a lot, and I sort of introduced myself to him after the talk, and there was quite a good connection. And he said to me like, oh hey, you know, like I think maybe 2 nights later or 3 nights later, he was like, we're going to be in Portland actually. We have organized already for a talk where we're going to be speaking in Portland. And Portland's something like 2 hours away from Olympia where I was living, and it was over the weekend, I guess, I think. And actually my mom and my sister were living in Portland at the time. And so I said like, hey, I'll come also to Portland. Like I would love to just like keep this connection and get to spend more time with you guys. And so I said like, I'll come down to Portland when you're speaking there also. And so yeah, I went to Portland. Jampa Dorje gave this like Seeds of Loving Kindness presentation. And actually my mom and my sister, they also came that time. They also attended. And they were also very, very moved by Jampa Dorje, his just like the kindness. And actually in the Sangha, there's like a term for this feeling, right? It's called Maitri Bhav, like this feeling of loving kindness. And I think that anybody that you really meet from the Sangha of Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru, like his disciples, everybody really radiates this feeling very strongly actually. And I have to say this too, I feel sometimes when I'm around these people, like the Sangha, now I've been many years connected and I've met them in Nepal, I've met them, some of them here in America and in various different places, and like I'm really so amazed by these people. I'm so impressed by the Sangha. Like they're so pure, they're so sincere, they're so loving, they're so compassionate, they're so devoted and faithful, and they just are like these pure like beings. They just like radiate like this light and this like energy. Like it's amazing. You don't find normal people like this out in the world. Like you go around in the cities, in the towns, you won't find people like this. I'm serious. I'm really being sincere. Like these are very unique, special kind of people. And even now to this day, I mean, I still feel this way. I feel sometimes like, how did I end up in this group with these amazing, like special beings who are clearly like, you know, the Nepali Sangha, the international Sangha, every single individual person that you meet, like they're so special. And then I'm just like some random guy. Like I think about like, how did I end up amongst these people? I really sometimes, a lot of times, not sometimes, a lot of times, I really feel like I'm not worthy, like I don't belong amongst this like amazing, pure spiritual community. Like I'm just a very ignorant, afflicted, sort of like foolish, normal guy. And these are very special people. And I'm not just like saying this, it's really true. And I've always felt this way. I feel somehow like awe-inspired and at the same time slightly intimidated, but everybody's so loving. They just open their arms and they welcome you, and they're so friendly and they're so kind, right? And so I do feel I've been welcomed into this community, even though I'm like, out of everybody, and let this show on the video, okay? Let this be record. Out of every single person of the disciples of Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru, I'm definitely the worst. Definitely the most worst. Like, you cannot find anybody worse than me, really, in this group of people. These are amazing, very, very special community. And I'm like sort of like I feel like the bug that got stuck on somebody's shoe or something, like that's just kind of coming along by accident, ending up in the right place. I don't know how I ended up in this community, right? But that's how I feel. And it's really important to say this. I really feel, and it's not something like some kind of like fake humility where I'm like trying to be humble. I always feel this way, like I'm in this Sangha and I feel there's nobody here that's worse than me, actually. I really feel like these are such, and actually, you know, it says in maybe from what I've read in some of the Buddhist scriptures and the teachings and so on, that like when great beings, for example, when Buddhas, one example would be Maitreya Buddha, like the Buddha Maitreya, the future Buddha who was yet to sort of, you know, they say from Shakyamuni's time, he was the next Buddha that was supposed to appear in this world in human form. So there were many Buddha Shakyamuni's disciples at that time, right? These bodhisattvas, these arhats, many different levels of beings and disciples and ordinary beings and so on, right? Many of these beings, they took a vow, right? They took an oath at that time that when Maitreya Buddha appears into this world, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is the same, that's what this is, because there have been a lot of people that have been saying like Guru Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru Lopam Gyawi, right? Have been saying like this is Maitreya Buddha, right? Many people have said this. And many people who maybe really know what they're talking about have said this, right? But Guru himself, as I understand, I didn't hear it directly, but as I understand, Guru has said, like, it's better maybe not to say this because it can create confusion about names, titles, about Dharma, basically making sort of dualistic confusion about this and that. And so Guru said, like, in time everything will be clear. So we don't need to say that he's Maitreya or that he's not Maitreya. So that's not really what I'm saying here. The point I'm trying to make is that at the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, right, many of the disciples, they swore a vow that when Maitreya Buddha appears in this world, when he comes and appears here in this world in human form in a physical body, right, they all said they will come back again themselves. They'll take incarnation into this realm. They will manifest as his Sangha, as his retinue, right, as his disciples, as his community. They will all come back, right? And so sometimes I have to say with this Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru Lopam, right, I feel really these beings that have gathered around him, especially in the early days, both sort of what we call regular lay people, like non-monastic, not wearing robes, right? And also, and maybe I will say especially, these the robes, the gurus, the male and female gurus that are wearing robes in his community, what we call the Guru Marga Gurus, the Atma Marga Gurus, these various different levels of like the sannyasin sort of ordained disciples. Like many of these people I have met, okay, and they really seem to me like not normal, in a way, very special, very pure spiritual beings with a lot of blessings, with a lot of power, with a lot of energy. I don't know the right word to use, but just very special beings, right? And I really think about this, that the disciples of the previous Buddhas and gurus and so on had actually sworn to come back. And sometimes I feel that this community that we see now, these are not random and not ordinary beings. They're very special. And I think that's really true. And anybody that spends the time to really get to know these people and to kind of just check, see the feeling that comes. And with an open mind, I have to say it's very important to be open-minded, right? Because it's so easy, and we can see this now with what's going on, to get stuck, right, in a narrow position, in a narrow perspective of, this is my Dharma, this is my belief, this is my view, like we use this kind of colors, we use this kind of rituals, we use this kind of prayers and mantras and these terms, and then we sort of get very stuck very easily, right? And so this is something new, right? What we see with Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru, what we're witnessing is new. It's something brand new. He started from scratch, right? And actually, like, we should be very open-minded. I think that's super important, right? We have to keep an open mind and just see what is the essence, like what is the teaching, what is the feeling, what is the goal, and also be very open-minded in a sense of being discerning, discriminating, being clear and critical as to like these criticisms, these accusations, the opposition, right? Like, where is it coming from? What place, what motivation, what incentive, and what kind of mentality, what kind of mindset is at the root of all this negativity that's now being directed towards Guru, right? And I have to say this also, when we talk about that Guru is doing something from scratch, right? That he's doing something from zero. Many people, they've said to me actually, I've heard this from a lot of people, oh, but he doesn't really belong to a particular lineage or tradition or established religious institution, a system, right? He doesn't belong, he's starting from scratch, right? His own thing, okay? And they say that as if that's automatically a fault, right? That's automatically suspicious, or that's automatically a sign of being fake somehow, right? So actually, I think from my understanding, like Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha, our Buddha, right? In this day and age in the world, when we say Buddha, who we refer to was Buddha Shakyamuni, Siddhartha Gautama, like Buddha, right? He did, in many ways, the same thing, didn't he? Isn't that true? Like, at that time, what was considered Dharma in Buddha Shakyamuni's time is probably what we now refer to as sort of Hinduism, right? Hindu Dharma, right? Maybe there was Jain tradition, maybe various different, Shiva, Krishna, Ram, Hanuman, like the different Hindu systems probably were in place at that time in Nepal or India, like where Buddha Shakyamuni was born and raised, right? So at that time, there was no such thing called Buddhism, right? Buddhaism, Buddha Dharma, as far as I know, and maybe somebody who's like can correct me if I'm wrong about this, I don't know. But there was no such thing as Buddhism until Buddha came, right? He renounced his traditions, his life, the palace that he was born and raised in, the wealth and comforts, even his wife and his son. He renounced everything in the search of the truth, right? He wanted to find the truth, and he wanted to find the path to liberation from suffering, right? The path of mukti and moksha. And he had seen these kind of like birth, old age, sickness, death, suffering, for the first time, when he was a grown man, he didn't realize sickness, pain, like old age, death. And he saw this and he was shocked, right? So he left. And then he spent these like 6 years doing intense tapasya, right? Which of course sounds very familiar. We can see where else this also parallel, right? And he found the Dharma, what we now call Buddhism, right? Through his direct practice, his experience, and his investigation, he sort of found a new presentation for the Dharma, which in many ways I feel that the true Dharma, like Satya Dharma, true Dharma is timeless, okay? It's beyond time, beyond past, present, and future, like before and now and then, none of that, right? But time to time, it's necessary for the wheel to be turned in a fresh way, okay? And this has happened many times. There have been great, and not just in this like Hindu and Buddhism, but in all the other religions too, right? And I'll talk about that a little bit later. So this is very important for us to see that and at the time when Buddha Shakyamuni attained his enlightenment and started giving his teachings, right? We can say everybody in India was probably Hindu at that time or whatever, right? Their own religious traditions. And they must have, what did they think about Buddha at that time? Except for a very small group who was Buddha's community, the Sangha, his disciples, ordained and lay, right? Those people were already connected with Buddha and they were following Buddha and receiving the Dharma already at an early time. But the society as a whole, the general society at that time, right? What do you think they must have said about Buddha Shakyamuni, right? Oh, it's a cult. It's a weird guy, some suspicious, shady guy starting a new tradition somewhere in the jungle, doing strange things. He's teaching that his teachings are not really talking about the caste system. In fact, saying that human beings are equal, right? In the Hindu Dharma, there is this distinction of caste, okay? Buddha was not talking about caste system. And many other teachings that Buddha Shakyamuni had shared were maybe slightly different than the conventional wisdom. For example, something as simple as, not simple I guess, but emptiness, right? Shunyata, anicca, anatta, dukkha, these teachings, right? Suffering, kind of pain, the lack of a self, that's an important one, like the lack of any inherently existing sort of independent self, and impermanence. Anyway, these teachings that Buddha was giving at the time, right? Like, it was a fringe phenomena at the beginning, okay? And very few people were actually in Buddha's corner at that time. And there was a lot, if you read Buddha's extensive sort of biographies and life stories, there's a very good biography about Buddha Shakyamuni, which was written by this famous Vietnamese Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed away a few years back. Really amazing, great master. And he wrote Old Path, White Clouds, which is a very extensive biography about Buddha Shakyamuni's life, right? And in this book, it details many, many accounts of the opposition to Buddha, right? People saying that he is a charlatan, that he's a fraud, that he's a phony, that he has been doing wrong, all kinds of wrong things. There was multiple assassination attempts of Buddha Shakyamuni. People tried to kill him. People tried to spread false rumors, allegations, all kinds of accusations in order to destroy him, basically, to destroy the Dharma that he was trying to bring into this world. Many people tried, okay? And at the end, we are sitting here now, everybody in this entire planet, okay, knows Buddha Shakyamuni, knows about his Dharma, about his teachings. At least they've heard his name, maybe seen his image somewhere, right? And these people in the beginning who tried to accuse him, who tried to make all kinds of false accusations, who tried to physically harm him, right? Even one letter of their names is not left in this world. Nobody knows, in a way. And of course, we don't have a sort of a positive, impression or perspective of these people and what they did. And so the truth became clear over a long period of time. And so I think it's important to also make this point that in that time there was already a precedent of Hindu Dharma, and Buddha was doing something new. And because he was new, because he was bringing sort of a fresh paradigm, a new presentation of Dharma teachings, there was enormous backlash at the beginning stages, right? And this happens, okay? I had this in my notes, and it's actually sort of supposed to come later, but I will say this right now because it's just kind of in the flow coming what I was already talking about. But this idea of like facing religious persecution, okay, which in my personal view, from my understanding, what I have observed, okay, being in this Sangha, in this community, and at the same time, I am sort of in a unique position, I think, amongst the Sangha, because I have my feet, you could say, in two different ponds, in a way, at the same time, okay? Because I am still, this whole time, also actively practicing Vajrayana, sort of Tibetan Buddhism, right? And I have my guru, my root guru, my Lama, Garchen Rinpoche, who is incredible, beyond, I mean, I truly, very sincerely see him as like Buddha in human form. No different than the actual Buddha himself. Like, this is somebody, a guru, who I feel is so rare and so precious in this world. So, but anyway, so that being said, I sort of have, and I'm still practicing the practices of the Maitri Dharma, Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru's teachings. Simultaneously, I'm very deeply, heavily involved in this sort of Vajrayana. I'm here right now in Garchen Rinpoche's center, actually. This is in Arizona. We're in Garchen Rinpoche's place, and he is really my guru. And there's honestly nothing whatsoever that would ever change that feeling and that connection that I have with Garchen Rinpoche, no matter what, right? That's something that what he has given me in terms of teachings and blessings and just the preciousness of Dharma, like, so that's something really, it's impossible to even express in words, but it's the most valuable thing. I mean, there's no proper, really, words to express that, and that connection is from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. It's just an unbreakable connection. So that being said, I've been around this communities a lot, and I still am, right? And not just Garchen Rinpoche, many very, very great, like, sincere, genuine lamas, Tibetan lamas, Buddhist lamas, from all the four lineages, right? Like Kagyu, Nyingma, Sakyu, Gelug. I've met and interacted and received teachings and so on from many incredible masters and great beings in these traditions, right? And I have very deep respect for them, and I've seen that the way that they operate, the way that their sanghas operate, some have global, very, very large sanghas, some are small, like local sanghas, and whatever. So there's a huge variety of this kind of Dharma and teachers and sanghas, right? And I have seen the way that they operate and the way that they are allowed to operate, the way that they are treated. Even I've seen cases within the Tibetan community where there have been sort of some controversies, some accusations. One example, very famous, everybody knows about, is like Sogyal Rinpoche is one example where there was a lot of controversies, accusations, and things coming up. And I sort of observed, I was never really connected with that teacher or that Sangha, but from a distance observed how things happened there, right? Just watching, just to see, okay? And I have to say, what I have seen with the way that Guru, Lopam, Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru, like the way that he has been treated in Nepal by the Nepali sort of media, the society, the authorities, the police, the sort of all these, maybe, who knows, the government. I don't really know who all is sort of involved and like why, right? And I'll get to that. But this is a very different kind of treatment for years, right? This has been going on for many, many years. And actually online, there's this petition that's going around. People are signing their names to sort of request I think it's like the petition is to like the United Nations Human Rights Commission or something. I don't exactly know the details, but basically people are putting their names behind this idea that like this spiritual community needs protection from unfair religious persecution, right? And I have to say, from observing this whole phenomenon, even from a neutral, if I wasn't like devoted to the Guru myself, from a neutral perspective, right, I can see that there's a very, very strong wave of really unfair persecution and false accusations, right? How many of the Guru's robe-wearing disciples, the Guru Marga Gurus, the Mahatma Marga Gurus, how many of them have been put into prison or put into jail without charges, without any lawyers, without any proper conditions, and held illegally? You know, I don't know the details, but I read maybe not so nice of conditions, sometimes beaten, whatever happened. And actually all of this is very clearly detailed in the text of this petition, okay, that's online. So when you look at all of this, what's happened, and the way that the Sangha has been treated, like, I feel that there's a very clear pattern of persecution, right? And what I was going to say is that every single great religious sort of paradigm shifting guru or like master, prophet, these great beings, right, who have appeared in this world, every single one, without one exception, I really cannot think of one exception, has faced very severe persecution, right? Isn't it? Everybody, okay? And, okay, why? Why has this always happened? My feeling is that because they are bringing such a deep change to the foundation of like our understanding, and an energetic shift also. Like in Buddhism, they talk about Buddha Shakyamuni had to sort of fight the maras, right? These sort of what we call like demons, which is basically the negative emotions, the harmful feelings and thoughts, the negativities, all this kind of stuff. So Buddha had to overcome all these very strong armies, hordes and legions of maras, right, that attacked in so many different ways and tried to destroy him, okay? And I already mentioned before, with Buddha Shakyamuni, there was so many attempts. And there's a story, actually, like Devadatta, who was like this jealous cousin of Buddha or something. I don't know exactly all the details, but he was an enemy of the Buddha who wanted to like destroy Buddha because he was jealous. And there's like stories where he tried to like push a boulder off of a cliff or something and fall down on Buddha, but then somehow I think the boulder just like split in half over Buddha's head and like didn't land on him. There was even a story in Buddha's life story, and I believe, we can go back and double check, I believe I read this in the Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Old Path, White Clouds, which I just mentioned earlier, right? There's a story in Buddha Shakyamuni's life story where there were some sort of wealthy, powerful, and rich people that had negative views towards Buddha, okay? And they found there was this young girl, maybe 18 or 20 or something like that, right? They found this girl and they paid her a bunch of money and maybe threatened her also. I don't really know exactly all the details, to go around and publicly say to everybody that the Buddha, and she was pregnant, right? To say that Buddha Shakyamuni had sort of raped her and had attacked her, and this kind of horrible accusations, to falsely go around saying these things, okay? And she spread this rumor to many people, and they believed this. And of course they turned against. They were already looking for a reason, because he was different, because he was bringing something fresh, and he didn't fit into the box of the existing society and the situation, right? So she spread this all over the place. And Buddha, as far as I know, didn't make a big fuss, like didn't really respond. He let this happen. And then finally, from my understanding, the way the story happened was that there was a moment where this girl and the Buddha like actually came face to face, and maybe there was some exchange, and suddenly she realized her mistake, like what a grave kind of mistake that she had made by agreeing to like take money from these like wealthy, sort of corrupt, malicious individuals. And she sort of started to cry. She bowed down before the Buddha's feet and she asked for forgiveness. And of course he forgave her, because in the Dharma, like this is the power of the Dharma. It's always pure, it's always good, and it's always true. And there's no bad feelings in the end. Like even if somebody is sort of physically attacking us, right? There's no bad feelings. Like we have to have, this is like the patience, the paramita of patience, like what in Buddhism it's called like in the Bodhisattva, the Mahayana practices, right? The 6 perfections, patience is very important, right? It's the kind of foundation of the other perfections too. Like it's so important, patience. And so that's Buddha Shakyamuni, some examples, okay? Look what happened with Jesus, right? Everybody knows the story of Jesus, right? How did Jesus' life end? He was arrested. Jesus, Christ, who started Christianity, like the biggest religion in the world right now, right? Jesus Christ at 33 years old, and actually I'm not sure how old Guru Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha is right now, but it's like around, honestly, the same age. Jesus, 33 years old, was arrested by the Roman Empire, okay? They arrested him. Why? Maybe they made some kind of sort of false accusations, or just the fact that he was preaching a religion that was sort of different and they felt was an existential threat to their existence, right? So Jesus was arrested and then actually killed finally, right? Like they put him on the cross and they crucified Jesus. They killed him. Okay? Jesus. They did this to Jesus. Okay? And then of course there's like the story of the resurrection, that Jesus had come back, and we all know this story. I don't have to like tell the story of Jesus here, but so this happened with Jesus. This happened with Buddha. This happened with Jesus. Okay? You name it, right? Moses, Muhammad, the Muslim prophet, Muhammad, like peace be upon him, as we say in Islam, like sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Prophet Muhammad, how much persecution did he face in his lifetime, right? The growing pangs of establishing a new system, a new tradition, a new religion, in a way, you could say a new Dharma, right? Moses, look at Moses. Like, what is Moses' actual life story? Like, what did he have to face in his life, right? So it's almost like a rite of passage for any great spiritual figure, master, game changer, who's like a paradigm shift, that these beings who come, they face this kind of persecution. It's happened every single time. This is the world that we live in. There's so much negativity, there's so much darkness, and there's so much mistrust, hate, doubt, suspicion, anger, greed, right, is a big one. Jealousy is a very big one. These bad feelings, right? It's so prevalent right now, everywhere. Look at the world. Look at the violence, the war. I mean, you name it. What's happening in this world right now? This is the paradigm that we are operating from. And so when pure light emerges in this paradigm of darkness, right? For sure there will be, I think earlier I said growing pangs, right? This pain of this dark energies expressing itself, lashing out against this light. Excuse me. And I think that it's very, it's to be expected. It's normal that this is happening, and it's not surprising. And actually, if anything, for Guru and for the Sangha, the fact that they are facing this persecution, it's kind of, I see it as a badge of honor, right? It shows their legitimacy. Like, they're in this category with sort of Buddha, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, like these great, great beings, okay? And even, personally speaking, my guru, Garchen Rinpoche, right? He was born in the mid-1930s in Tibet, in kind of calm area of Tibet. And in his life, when he was a young man, like in his maybe late teen or early 20s, the Cultural Revolution broke out, right? And the communist military was coming to Tibet. Garchen Rinpoche actually joined sort of a resistance militia group, I guess you could say, like this calm resistance army, kind of an armed militia. And he went from being a Buddhist monk, a lama, a guru in training, like a young guru, to a soldier in the kind of armed conflict, and for the defense of his people and his religion, and to preserve the Buddha's teachings. For that purpose, for that intention, he became a soldier, and he was a part of this tiny sort of army that was like massively overpowered by the communist Chinese army at that time. And he was put into prison. He was captured, and they put him in prison. And for 20 years of his life, like his kind of prime years, from his like early 20s to his 40s, he was in prison. Garchen Rinpoche spent 20 years of his life in prison because of persecution, religious persecution, right? And even though he was in prison for 20 years, Rinpoche is now 88 or 89 years old, and he has spread the Buddhist teachings, his sort of style and lineage and tradition of teachings. It's widespread all over this world now. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people at every continent. I mean, hundreds of different countries, right? There's Garchen Rinpoche students everywhere. And so putting him in prison didn't stop him from his task, from his mission, right? His life's purpose of basically being an outpouring of Dharma, of wisdom and compassion and blessings, and this non-stop day and night outflow of Dharma. That's all he's done his whole life. He's given Dharma everywhere, right? And so in the end, it doesn't work. That's the thing. This kind of persecution, it really doesn't work in the end. But we have to find the truth. And that's important. And I will say, like, with this... So that's an important... Anyway, I'll come back to that. So that's an important point, that there's been this tradition of persecution of great religious beings and spiritual Dharma leaders, right? They have always faced persecution from the society that doesn't understand them yet. And slowly, slowly, as time goes on, more understanding develops. And as the understanding develops, the conditions change, maybe they're more accepted. Later on in Buddha's life, right, Buddha Shakyamuni, he had people like the king, I can't remember, there's many kings, right? Bimbasara, maybe Ashoka, there's so many Dharma kings, I can't, of course, and then even going into much later generations in Tibet, these Dharma kings that were sort of patrons, they became patrons and sponsors of the Dharma, and they spent massive resources to help the Dharma, rather than trying to resist and block and accuse and sort of intimidate the Dharma. So these are some important points to make, right? And I think it's important to say all this. Okay, so a few more things. I think, so with all of this context, like this kind of background, what I've just said, right? And I'll come back to where I started, like, later. What I have observed myself, okay, personally speaking, I have been to Nepal in 2015, 2017, and 2019 were the 3 times when I directly was present in the Maitri Dharma precincts. I was around the community. I lived there in like a tent. I stayed with the people. I was deeply immersed in the community, right? And so I observed. I'm like a pretty observant, generally speaking. I sort of try to observe what's going on around me. And I was, like myself, new and curious and wanted to see what was going on and like understand it, but with a very open mind, right? With a kind of a foundation of faith and devotion and trust and openness to really see the truth, what's happening. And I have to say, like, this community, it's so pure. It's really pure. Everything that they do is so pure. And this is, I'm telling the truth, okay? I don't see anybody else in such a pure way living, eating, speaking, practicing, right? They have such a deep commitment to this like pure values about, for example, the environment, animals, like sentient beings, not eating food that's harmful, meat and sort of flesh and, foods. Even many of them very strict vegan, right? Not taking anything from sentient beings, animals, and they're so respectful about the land, so connected. Like, Guru said when I first went the first time, Guru said everybody should be barefoot in the jungle. We're in the middle of the jungle. It's a very deep place, right? We have to be barefoot so our feet can connect with the earth, right? And so many things. I mean, the way that the Sangha, the way that people speak, the way that they think, the way that they frame everything that they see, it's really so pure. And unfortunately, I mean, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but I haven't seen this kind of purity anywhere else. Any other place, I have not seen this. And I never saw anything like all of these, like when I hear these accusations, it's shocking. I feel shocked because I just don't see, of course, I didn't see anything for myself firsthand, right? And we have to be very careful here. Whatever we say, believe, and repeat and spread around, right? It's so important that we have to check. Like, is it true what I'm saying? Do I know it's true? Or I just heard something and it's very seductive, it's very catchy, it's very like, hot gossip or whatever, right? So I just believe it and then go sharing it around. This is not really like helpful to be spreading everything like this, right? We have to really find the truth. And for me, what I've seen myself, and I can only speak for like what I've seen myself, I've seen the most loving, kind, supportive, like genuinely caring and sincere community of very profound Dharma. Things that I've seen in this community, I've never seen anywhere else. Like the purity, the way that the everything is conducted from A to Z. It's so deeply pure, okay? Somebody used this example recently. There was the Maha Darshan Maitri Puja in 2017 in Bungamati, like Bhaisapati, this like in kind of outskirts of Kathmandu area. There was this tanka, right? 75 feet, I believe, super tall, like many stories high tanka that was hand painted by artists in the Sindhupalchuk jungle, okay? This tanka, Guru had commissioned that it be painted by hand, and it's huge. And so they built this like scaffolding. They're in the middle of the jungle with no facilities, no like equipment. People are like hanging and climbing and whatever, trying to make this tanka, okay, paint this tanka. And then like when the tanka is complete, they rolled it up, and the gurus, the monks, right, the nuns and monks, they carried this massively heavy tanka, canvas and paint, 75 feet high, like from Sindhupalchuk to Kathmandu on their feet. They walked with the thing on their shoulders, and they walked the whole way. Okay, and there's many stories. I mean, people that have been around more, maybe in this like Sangha, they spend more time, they could tell you so many stories about the way that they do things in the Sangha. It's very different, you know? And then when they arrived in Kathmandu with this big tanka, they had to build like a stand for it out of bamboo, like scaffolding. Like somebody in the Sangha, we were just talking about this, they made this whole thing like from scratch, okay, from bamboo, like, and they put in their own hard work to do it. And people are they don't have a lot of resources at all, especially in those early times. Like, there was no facilities. We were using toilets in the jungle, just outside, wherever. Like, there was no toilets. We didn't have like running water. We just drank like whatever water was available there, sort of flowing somewhere. Like, there was nothing. There was no construction much, a few little huts made out of like flimsy materials. There was nothing. And the purity of every step of this process that I have observed, it actually does not have any parallel that I have seen anywhere. Like, and people, people talk about the money, right? This always becomes a question when there's anything going on, a community in Dharma and whatever it may be. People talk about, oh, money, like, where's the money going? How is the money being used? Like, how, whatever, all of these questions that come about the money. I will say, okay, my experience, just my experience. I went there, like I said, maybe 3 times to the precincts, right? I've been to the Sindhupalchok, Sindhuli, Patharkot, the place in Bungmati, maybe some few other, like, you know, these like little Maitri centers here and there, a few of them that I have visited, right? And stayed there. At that time, now think about this. I'm from America, okay? I live in America. I grew up in America. It's considered the richest country in the world, right? I'm not that I'm like personally wealthy or anything like that, but I'm coming from America, okay? I went to this place in the jungle that was the Maitri community's like space, okay? I lived there. I had a place that was given to me to sleep, very comfortable. I mean, in a tent, but like outside, but very comfortable, you know, like I had somewhere to sleep. I had 3 meals a day provided, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like what they call samyak ahar, what was called, I don't know the Maitri term for it, but pure nourishment, right? Very pure, beautiful food, hand cooked by these incredible, like devoted volunteers. Every potato, right? They cut by hand. This was so much love in this whole process. Okay, I lived there. I ate the food that was provided in the center. Okay, I attended the Dharma programs. I received teachings. I received darshan blessings. We recited the Maitri prayers. All of these activities, okay? And there was transport even from Kathmandu to Sindhupalchok to Patarkot, and cars and different things. So many things, right? This entire Sangha, okay, not one time, never, I was never asked for $1 ever for anything, okay? For food, for housing, for Dharma teachings, for blessings, for transportation, so many things. I went to Nepal and I enjoyed for free, okay? Because I was like not employed at the time and not in a position where I had money to offer, right? And there was never any one person that came up to me and said, can you please donate something? Can you please give some, or lunch costs $10. Like nobody said this. Everything always was offered like from Dharma. And I said to somebody, this is very unusual. Like I've never seen any other Sangha where this is the case. Never, you know? And I said to somebody, this is very strange. And they said to me like, oh, you know, Guru said this, like this is directly from Guru, that we should not charge money for anything, that the Dharma is free. The Dharma is like an offering that comes directly from this like Maitri, loving kindness place. And so nothing was ever asked of me. And I know that's basically the same for everybody else. So if there's a very good video also on YouTube. There's like a Nepali lawyer who is like speaking about what happened, the circumstances of how Dharmasangha was arrested recently, like a month or something ago. He was arrested, taken into custody, and they seized all of this like money from his house, right? And then people are saying, oh, it's a sign of like impropriety. It's a sign of like, you know, mishandling money, and he's keeping the money and all these things. Like it's these like crazy things that people, well, I shouldn't even say crazy. These are people's feelings and views and whatever that's like going around. And maybe this is their sort of, they have a right to feel this way based on the information that they've received. But like this lawyer was saying in this video, right? Is it not a tradition in every Dharma, especially like in Nepal, there's like Hindu Dharma, Tibetan Buddhism, many different traditions. Like if you go to a spiritual place or a spiritual master, you receive blessings or teachings or a service of like a spiritual nature that you feel inspired to offer some donation. Like you offer, we have a word for this. In India, we have a word for this. In Nepal, we have a word for this. In America, we have a word for this, right? This is a completely, every church, Christian church, they pass around the donation box, right? This is a normal practice. And so if people from various countries, because Guru had so many international Sangha, devotees and disciples, if people are on their own free will offering money to the Guru and the Sangha for the various like projects, construction, supporting the food and expenses, living and clothes of the monastics, the sort of ordained gurus and so on, like there's actually nothing whatsoever that's improper about that. That's how the Dharma works, right? They don't ask that it costs $5 or $10 or $100, $1,000, whatever. Nobody asked me. I'm from America, and I went to Nepal and I ate for free. I slept for free. I did everything, and I never paid any money, right? Nothing. I sort of tried to help a little bit where I could volunteer, like maybe wash dishes or so whatever I can do, right? This, yes, I felt like this I could offer, and so I did. But the idea that, oh, there's like somebody found this pile of cash like in Guru's house, and so suddenly he's like doing whatever, like this makes no sense actually. And I also say this, and I don't mean any offense by this, because again, I am the student of a Tibetan guru, of Garchen Rinpoche, and that's something that is like so deep in my heart, and I always will be, right? Like, find any Tibetan high lamas, right, that don't receive the same kind of money what they found. So I think they said something like it was like maybe 200,000 US dollars, something like that. Like, find me any big gurus, right, who don't have this kind of funds that are offered by the Sangha to them. This is nothing unusual. There's nothing strange about this at all. And the idea that the media and the police and the government and whoever is like behind this, maybe it's even like, me personally, I feel I really don't know who and why there's so much effort to try to sort of defame this guru and to like destroy what he's trying to accomplish. And I really don't know who is doing it, and I don't know why. But I think eventually people will know. I think eventually it will become very clear who and why. But I can understand how they would take all of this, what they saw, and then make it seem like something else, okay? So that's very easy to understand how they're manipulating what people are seeing and hearing and understanding to try to make it look bad, when really it's really not bad. And so this is my experience. Like, these are some things that I've seen. And like I said, these are the most pure. Like, I could never be so pure. I mean, I should never say never, but like how I feel right now, these kind of Sangha friends and companions and the community that I have observed, like, they are at a level of purity, of body, speech, and mind, which it's very hard for me to really fathom. And I do have a sincere aspiration and an intention to improve, to become more towards the path of Dharma as much as I can go. But I have so much baggage, whatever you want to call it, so much thick, heavy, deep-seated, like muck, this dirt, this, whatever we call this, like this, like sludge, right? So deep. So for me, it's like, I see these people, I'm inspired by them. I don't claim that I'm part of it, that I'm one of them, because I look up to them, really, and I feel they're so amazing. And I think it's so important and necessary for this whole world, for this planet, for every single human being, for the animals, right? For the tiniest of creatures, and for the plants, like the living beings with different levels of like understanding and consciousness, like the whole universe even, maybe, right? I think it's so important to have this kind of guru that has appeared now in this world, okay? And the Sangha that's around him, the community that's surrounding him, these are so precious, so special, and really not normal, okay? There's like so many people, maybe in Nepal and internationally, who have not really directly seen the Guru or directly interacted with the students of the Guru or the community of the Guru, maybe haven't directly read or listened to the teachings of the Guru, right? Like, what is he saying? How does it even compare to like Buddhism, for example? Like I said, I'm also sort of in this conventional Vajrayana, like Buddhist path, maybe 9-10 years now, something like that. So there's this discerning ability to sort of look at both teachings and see like what is overlapping, where there might be slight differences, but to me, I don't even see the differences as different. That's just my interpretation, and maybe I'm crazy, but that's how I see it. But so it's so important for this to be in the world right now with everything that's going on. I truly feel that this Guru and this Sangha is really going to change this entire world in ways that right now we really can't fathom. But to bring such this beautiful feeling of love and kindness and peace, of understanding and compassion and sort of this mutual like Maitri feeling, like it's not about religion, it's not about culture, it's not about converting or like whatever. It's not really about all of that, but this, somebody described it as like a groundswell, right? That just comes from the ground. And this is honestly, I feel like our only hope for this world. Like in this moment, in Guru's teachings, it often says we're sort of at this brink of like destruction of the planet. And the scientists, they say the same thing, right? The climate catastrophes, the global warming and pollution and environment like change, these are real, right? And to whatever extent they are manifesting and will continue to manifest, not to mention violence, war, right? In America, we have this huge problem with people just violent, killing each other with guns and fighting and disagreement, which then leads to violence, and so much like antagonism and disagreement, opposition. Like we have this huge problem. And then globally, right? Wars are increasing. There's just so much pain and deep suffering all over the place, right? And it's not, I hate to say this, but it's not really getting better. It seems to be getting worse or the same, right? And I don't have a lot of hope, personally speaking myself, in the status quo, the sort of conventional system of governments and politicians and the NGOs and the businesses and this and that, like whoever, these people that I don't have a lot of faith that they can actually change things for the better, or even really, and not to, I don't want to be too negative, but that they even want to. Those who are profiting from the status quo, who are benefiting from the status quo, do they really even sincerely, deeply want anything to change? Like, I personally don't know, and I don't necessarily think that they do. And so I don't have a lot of faith in the institutions that we are supposed to trust will take care of us, that will make everything be okay in the end. Like, yes, but it's under control. Like, I don't think it is. I think that it's going from bad to worse, and we need a change, right? A shift, a very, very deep, fundamental shift, like inside of our heart has to shift. Like, nothing that changes on the outside can fix sort of these very, very pressing, urgent issues that we face as a global community, like a global, not just humanity, animals, plants, the 5 elements, the whole situation, right? This thing that we are facing right now, like, we have to experience this deep paradigm shift from this kind of conventional sort of us versus them, antagonism, violence, negativity, afflictive emotions, hatred, greed, jealousy, like all that muck I was talking about earlier. That has to shift, right? We have to open the heart and really just love each other. Like, we have to love everybody. And it can't just be this fringe group of like a few people that are like, yeah, like my heart's open and I love everybody so much, like, cool. But that's not going to change anything. I mean, maybe, it's a domino effect, it's a snowball effect, like that's true also. So that is good too. But it has to be on a mass, like on a widespread sort of scale. I think that's the only way that things are going to improve. And I do actually somehow as bad as it looks, deep down inside, there is some type of a flicker of optimism that actually, yeah, like the world is going to change for the better, and we're getting close to that moment, and I think it's coming. And when I see this guru, Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru, Lopam Gyawi, like what he actually is, what he has brought and is bringing and will bring into this world from somewhere else that's not really a part of this world. Like what he's bringing is from an extremely pure, place within the consciousness, the heart, the soul. And it's for him to open this sort of gates for us, like the whole world, to this feeling, to this experience and realization, and like whatever it is really. It's so precious, it's so important, and it's vital. We need this. The world, we need this. We can't be stuck like with our old ways, right? That's just going to lead to everything getting worse and maybe destroyed at the end, right? The status quo is not really sustainable, and I think everybody understands that. But who has the power, who has the wisdom, and who has the blessings, the capacity, and the genuine ability to affect change on a massive, like the whole world, right? I think that this guru is the person, is somebody who has come into this world for this purpose and for no other reason. Like he didn't have to take a physical incarnation. I don't think there's a quote, very amazing quote. I was thinking about, I was like meditating here recently for some days, like staying in retreat, and I was thinking this one quote from Guru few times just kept sort of popping up into my mind, right? Guru said that for kalpas and kalpas, meaning like eons and eons, like this kind of time scale that's impossible for us to really fathom as sort of ordinary human beings, you know? He said, for kalpas and kalpas, I have been dwelling in the deepest and highest, I believe chitta was the word that he used in Nepali, chitta, and maybe we have to double check and make sure it's correct and everything. But so this chitta kind of means, like when we say like bodhi chitta, right? Bodhi chitta is like the mind, the heart, the spirit of enlightenment, right? Bodhi, of awakening. So he said that for kalpas and kalpas, I've been dwelling in the highest and deepest chitta, the highest and deepest consciousness, the level of consciousness, this like pure level of consciousness. And now he's come physically embodied into this world for the sake of all of us. There's no reason for him own self why he came here, why he's embodied, why he's trying so hard to share the Dharma. Like if you read Guru's book, the Maitri Dharma book, where it talks about his biography, the kind of pain, the hardships and the suffering that he inflicted upon himself in his tapasya for 6 years. Like nobody forced him to sit without food and water. Nobody forced him to walk barefoot in the jungle where the thorns were like cutting up his feet and legs and he's bleeding. Nobody forced him to like be freezing cold and burning hot and like rain and snow and water, and nobody forced him to have the termites eating up his clothes and like making a nest in his back. Like all of these things that we read about, this incredible hardship, you know. If people are familiar with somebody like Milarepa's life story, like, you know, somebody like Milarepa experienced so much difficulties. Buddha Shakyamuni, his, you know, the images of Buddha where his ribs are showing, like this was the same thing, this tapasya, right? And nobody made him do this, right? He did this for the sake of all sentient beings, and that's the only reason. And so that's very important. And so I think that this is what I wanted to say about the purity of the community, the purity of the guru, and the purity of his intentions and like what he's bringing into this world. And so that's very important. And then I will also say, like, so right now there's sort of this legal situation that's happened in Nepal. Guru has been arrested. There are accusations. There's like various things. They're holding him. He's detained right now somewhere. And also I will say it doesn't surprise me at all seeing what I've seen and knowing what I know. But somebody told me like there are some Nepali Sangha devotees nearby the facility where Guru is being detained right now in jail. And they said that there are reports that all of these fellow detainees, right, prisoners, the members of the prison community, whatever, these people in jail, all of them now have inside the jail started competing over who gets to be like close to Guru, who gets to stay near Guru, who gets to talk to Guru and just like be in his presence and his energy and so on. And maybe even some of the guards and maybe slowly some of those legal people, the police, the government, whoever it is, maybe this feeling will sort of spread and expand. And this is a very interesting phenomenon that I will say as a side note to see. But so this process, I feel, right, yes, it's important that it should take its course. And if there are accusations, they should be investigated like truthfully, because the truth is so important. Like the lawyer said in his video, and he explained everything very clearly, so you can refer to that. There shouldn't be any ill will and sort of malpractice and malicious treatment of Guru in this case and this investigation. Like, it should just be a fair thing. Like, the police should follow all the rules and the conventional conduct that is normal. And that just has not been the case, right? Like, so there's this boy, I guess grown man now, my friend, actually, Rajendra, right? Rajendra was a former Guru Marga Guru that was a student of Guru. He lived for 4 years in the Maitri precinct, okay? And again, he has put his testimony on a video, and it's on YouTube, it's public now. But I remember him telling me this story, and he's clearly traumatized, like, from what happened to him, that he was like, 19, he was a young, I don't know exactly the age, but he was a young man at the time, like teenager, and he was kidnapped by these like scary, intimidating goons in Nepal, and they took him to the 4th floor of a building, and they sort of intimidated him to sign this false confession against Dharmasangha. They threatened his life. They said that they would brutally, they gave details about peeling the skin off of his body, like, this horrible, like, violent murder that they threatened to do, or like push him out of the window of the 4th story building and have him like all these things. They tried to make him say a false accusation and sign a false testimony, right? So this kind of thing is what I'm really concerned about, the dishonest, false, and sort of maybe intentionally malicious treatment that's going on in this course of the legal process, the investigation, even like where the accusation is coming from. Like, I don't know any of the details about this, and I don't really have the authority to speak on that because I don't know all of that, but the process should be fair. And like, I have, my uncle, right? I have an uncle, like very close. We grew up quite close when I was younger and everything, and he was in India in the police force. He was the DGP of police in UP province in India. So like the Director General of Police in the UP in India, right? So very sort of high-ranking police and many connections throughout India in the law enforcement and the police community and all this kind of stuff, right? And he told me all the time, these police, Nepal and India and maybe other countries, like, they may decide that somebody is guilty of a crime before they really even investigate properly. And then they just make the most convenient way to make it seem like that's true, the accusation, and they just go with it, right? But when people are watching, it's very important to make sure that the investigation, whatever is happening right now, the legal process, everything has to be done honestly and correctly. And that's all that I wish to happen in this case. And like, basically, I have to say 100% sure that if this is done in a true and genuine and sincere way, whatever this legal process is, it will be resolved in a way that shows the truth about Guru, which is that he is really this incredibly pure, great being, like what they say, like Paramatma in human form, like kind of the highest possible pinnacle of what our consciousness can evolve to become. And I feel that all of these obstacles will be cleared away, all of these hindrances will dissolve, and all of the Satya Dharma, like the true Maitri Dharma that Guru is bringing, it will like wildflowers popping up in a field in the summertime. Like, this will spread all over the world. I feel this way. And maybe it will take time, like whether it will be slow or fast, it depends, right? And Guru is the orchestrator of all this, who understands what needs to be done and when. And so I'm optimistic in this sense. And I just, like right now with everything that's going on, I felt that maybe there might be some benefit for me to share my experience, my perspective, and my understanding of the situation. And I really pray that people in Nepal will wake up to the reality, to see, like, who is this Guru? Did he or did he not sit for 6 years and meditate without food and water? Is this true? Or is this fake? Like, did Guru do this? I think everybody saw that he did this. This was real, right? And can other people do, like, can I do that? Or can you do that? Like, probably not so easy, right? No food, no water, meditation. Like, we can 15 minutes, then we feel thirsty and hungry and tired, isn't it? Isn't it? Oh, my back hurts. Guru, look at what he did and who he is. Okay, I saw in the 2017 Mahadarshan Maitri Puja, okay, Guru would come to his like Dharma throne where he was sitting early in the morning time. He would come and sit down on the throne, and from the time that he sat down until oftentimes very late at night, after midnight some of the nights, right, 12, 1 in the morning, right, Guru is sitting there on his Dharma throne, and one by one he's just giving darshan blessings to every single person. There was lines, thousands of people that time, thousands of people, okay? People told me they had to wait like 8 hours in the line, standing, without getting a chance to eat, without bathroom, toilet breaks, all this kind of thing. They had to wait so long time just to come for Guru's blessing that time, right? And what I saw myself, okay, I've been around, like I said, a lot of gurus and lamas and great masters, very amazing spiritual teachers, right? But the way that Guru sat for more than 12 hours, like, you know, no, not one bite of food, not one sip of water, right? No toilet breaks, no get up and take a 15-minute break to stretch my legs, like nothing, right? And I know that's not in itself necessarily something that's like so amazing or whatever like that. Just the way, you know, the way that he was sitting, the way that it was just like, you could take a time-lapse video of this footage, 13 hours, 12 hours, and just play it, and it's like he would just be still there the whole time, you know? Not even adjusting, like, oh, I need to like little bit change my position, and oh, this something, like, and I had never seen that before with my own 2 eyes, you know? I had never seen anybody who could sit like that and just keep going, and the incredible energy that was coming, like, I had never seen that, you know? And it's not actually normal. So we have to see what's true and what's false, right? This is very important. And it's very important that, you know, and I have to say to the people like myself who are Vajrayana, like very sort of hardcore, like card carrying, dogmatic, like Vajrayana, Tibetan, Buddhist people, right? There's a tendency in these communities to just be so dismissive of this guru, right? You know, so dismissive vibe sometimes. Oh, the, you know, color's different, something is fishy, like, maybe, we don't know, but what's his lineage? Who's his, like, which of our 4 lineages? Oh, if none of those, then he must be fake. Like, this kind of thinking, it's very close-minded, actually, right? And I think that if the lamas of the Tibetan system, the 4 lineages and whatever, if they really, really open-mindedly check, okay, they have ways in all of their traditions of checking. Meditators, practitioners, gurus, lamas, these like beings, just check, right? Is he genuine or not? Like, be very sincere and open to the possibility that maybe it's genuine, you know? And then you check. And I think people will be very, very surprised if they really take the effort, the initiative to investigate and check for themselves. I really encourage this, actually, because I'm like this. I'm in, sort of, like I said earlier, I have one foot in both ponds, in both of these oceans, you could say, right? And I feel very comfortable. And I've had people from both sides actually approach me and say, oh, well, you know, it's better that if you're practicing sort of Vajrayana Buddhism, then maybe you leave all this Maitri Dharma, you know, maybe you just pick one thing. And same on the other side, this Maitri people, sometimes they say, well, you know, like, if you're practicing Maitri Dharma, it's so pure. Why do you need some other, some other different system or whatever, right? But for me, there's no distinction. Like, there's no barrier of this or that or whatever, right? Even I myself, I think I grew up as a Muslim. I told you, I still practice the Islamic teaching. I still do this sometimes, fasting, saying the namaz, praying, like all of these, the prayers. I still do all of this with kind of a pure perception, a pure view, and a pure motivation that all of these streams, they go into the same source, the same like meaning, right? Different. It's like if you have like an apple, right? And then you have different languages, you can use different words. You could say like apple in English, we can say seb, like in Hindi, whatever. Pinguo, like in Chinese. There's so many different words for apple, right? But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. And that when you take a bite, the taste will be the same, no matter which language word that you've used to describe apple. So this is how I feel, and I really hope that we can get more unity and mutual understanding and togetherness and acceptance and connection into the future. And I think this is basically mostly everything I was going to say. I'm going to double check here in my notes just to make sure I didn't forget something, but I think this is like pretty much most of it. So I have to say, so far, my first note card, I covered mostly without even referring too much. So that's okay. We got through that one. I think I got through this one. Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to close then. The last thing I will say, I started with this story about how Jampa Dorje came to Portland, right? And kind of how I first connected with Dharmasangha Guru. So Jampa Dorje came to Portland with Ganga and Tara, this Seeds of Loving Kindness tour, after I had already met them in Olympia, Washington. And so I told my mom and my sister, like, you guys might really find this to be something interesting. Like, you all should come to this talk and like check it out. And so they both agreed to come. Like I said, my mother is Muslim, like practicing and very devoted, very spiritual person. But she was open enough that she said, okay, like, I'll come listen, just why not? Like, you know, you said it's something nice. So like they came, both my mom and my sister came. And he gave the presentation, and they were also very sort of moved and inspired and like touched by everything that Dorje was saying in the presentation. And so on, like, long story short, so it ended up being that we invited Jampa Dorje to come and stay at my mom's house that night while they were in town. And so he came over, like, he stayed at our house, we had dinner, my mom like cooked dinner for all of us, we ate together, and we talked a lot, and Jampa Dorje was like sharing all of these stories about meeting with Guru and the connections that he had made, and just like this like feeling from the heart was there, you know, very strong, and we could all like sort of feel that. And so then, like, that was in the year, I want to say like 2013 or 12. I had just graduated from university at that time, or maybe I was just about to finish. So it was like around 2012, 2013, I believe. And so after Dorje left in 2013, okay, it was announced that there would be this like puja, darshan puja. I think Lalitpur maybe was the name of the place. I might be, no, that doesn't sound right. Anyway, I can't remember the name of this place now, but yeah, the very nice place. There was like snow mountains, you know, I saw the picture of the place. So there was going to be this puja, this darshan program with Guru. And so somehow I was so drawn, like I felt like I had to go. I felt like it's so important that I go to meet this Guru who I had never met before. This was in 2013, right? So we made a plan, actually, and even my mom and my sister were so moved by meeting Jampa Dorje that they felt like, this is somebody special, we should go meet him, like, let's go. And so we actually all three like had made a plan to go. We had our plane tickets to Nepal purchased. We had packed our luggage, like everything was ready, right? And then the day before, like, we were supposed to go to Nepal, me and my sister and my mom, all three of us, right? The day before, meaning we were already like online, checking in for the flight, trying to arrange transportation to the airport, everything, right? It was ready. So that day, my mom got sick, like was not feeling well. And so we had to take her to the sort of doctor, like emergency room, urgent care, whatever. We took her there, and they did some further testing. They did some scans and like various different things. And basically they found like a tumor. And so she was like diagnosed with cancer, like right there. So the trip was canceled. Like, we had to cancel the trip. We had to cancel everything, right? And this was a period where there was so much suffering, actually. It was a really, really painful and very difficult time. Like, I remember, you know, it took several days. They had to do testing. They found like some lump or something. Then they had to do these like biopsy procedure. And the whole time all of this was happening, I was just like praying to Guru, because I somehow could feel that this was like this whole situation that manifested, and the timing, the way that it happened, I could feel that it was like maybe like a test, maybe like a blessing in disguise, something there. But I just felt Guru's presence so strongly the whole time. I really felt it. And I remember, like, we were in the hospital. My mom was she was under anesthesia. They had done a biopsy procedure, and the doctors called on the phone, and I was the one that answered the phone. It was just me and my little sister there, and like we were by ourselves. And I remember I answered the phone, and the doctor told me on the phone, like, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but it's cancer, and it's like quite bad actually. It's not really a good diagnosis, and it's very urgent that we get her like treatment right away and like all this kind of stuff. And it was like so difficult for me that time, just having this burden of like, you know, I knew she didn't even know yet, my mom didn't know yet, my sister didn't know yet, like I was the only one that knew, and I just felt like Guru, like right here, and I was praying to Guru that like somehow just like help with the situation, like I was so excited to go to Nepal and like meet Guru directly, and the next thing I know, I'm like in this hospital, like receiving this news, and everything shifted like very suddenly, right? And so there was at that time this whole process, like the type of disease that my mom had, it was a very rare and specific type of cancer, and there was only like one hospital in the whole country in Houston where there was like some type of treatment that maybe possibly might have a chance of being effective that she could get, and it was like an experimental treatment at the time called like proton therapy, and it's like very difficult to find a doctor that was like able to do this, the whole thing. So basically she had to go to Houston. We had to get her to Houston like right away, in a way. And the decision was made that she would go first with some other family, like my aunt and uncle or something, and then me and my sister were staying back, and we decided, we all decided as a family basically that to pack up the house in Portland that we were living in, because it was a rental, and our house that we sort of grew up in and like that we live in is like in Phoenix, and that house was being rented out. So we decided to like basically move my mom back to Phoenix, where there was more family and more support system to be around her, to like take care of her, where she was more comfortable. And so like there was these days where my mom had already left and she's like at the hospital, trying to get started with the treatment, and it's like me and my sister, and we're trying with some help. There was like a moving company or something, like packing up the house and like desperately trying to like put everything in boxes. So it's like this stress, like this pressure of like uprooting everything and moving at the same time, like not knowing what's going to happen with my mom and her health, and just being really worried, and like so much pressure, right? And I felt like I was the older of the two of us, like the siblings, and it just felt like this really heavy burden like on my shoulders, and I was suffering a lot myself. I was in a lot of pain at that time, like really suffering. And I remember like one particular day, I just felt like I really just like could not take it anymore. Like I felt like it was too much at once, like just too much pressure, too much burden, like so many things all at once happening, you know. And I just like went down on the ground, and I was sort of very dejected, and just like I was praying to Guru, to Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru. I just prayed. And actually at this time I had not met Garchen Rinpoche yet. And that's another thing that came later. Maybe I'll mention a little bit. But so I was praying to Guru so deep, like from the deep part of my heart, just to like help, and just to like be there somehow to help with this situation. And I remember like that, right after that, I walked outside in the house, like in the backyard of the house in Portland that was like being packed up or whatever, and I look up in the sky, and there was like this like very intense rainbow like around the sun. You know, there's like a term for this sort of weather phenomenon. I think it's called like a sundog or whatever. It's like this amazing like round like rainbow around the sun, very bright, colorful, and super bright. So like I saw this rainbow, and I just like started crying. I started to cry and cry and cry, and I could feel that like basically I felt that this was like sort of a sign from Guru that he was like with us, with my family, and that he was blessing and supporting and protecting us and like taking care. And then something very unusual actually happened at that time, which is like normally you may see this kind of like circular rainbow around the sun, and it's like there for like a little few minutes or like few hours or something like that, right? This rainbow in Portland like 3 or 4 days continuously it was visible in the sky. It never, I mean, except for at night when it was dark or whatever, but all day long for 3 days, like straight. Like there was this super bright, powerful like rainbow in the sky above us. And while this was there, we were still doing all this work in the house, packing everything up. And I remember like even walking around in the like parking lot of some like shop and like saying to people like, do you see this rainbow? Like, are you seeing this? People would look up and be like, wow, you know, like so amazed like that. So somehow I felt like this was like Guru's small way of like showing that he was there. And then like, you know, this whole process went on. My mom went through this like treatment process of proton therapy and chemotherapy. And I would be, later I was in Houston, like soon after the house was packed up, I went to Houston to be with her and stay with her. And I remember I was like in the hospital where everybody had cancer. It was a cancer hospital. And I would sit in the lobby with my the prayers, like the Dharmasangha's Maitri prayers, like like this prayers. And I would recite these in the lobby of the cancer facility, like while they were doing the treatments to everybody. Quite loud, I have to say. I was just in there like loudly praying for the sake of my mom, but also for the sake of like all these other people. I just cry when I saw, many people are in much worse condition than my mom too. Like, and I would just feel so deep sense of compassion really, and stuff, like kind of feeling their pain and wishing for them to be happy, this whole thing. So I really like did my best. I prayed in this place, and I was always kind of praying to Guru and thinking about Guru. And the kind of miraculously, the treatments worked very effectively in getting rid of the tumor and the cancer from my mom. And she has been healthy. It's now 10 years later. She's healthy and in good health. I mean, she has some, you know, health residual issues, but she's, you know, able to work, she's able to function, and she's still here, which is amazing. And I really feel that so much of this, what happened, was due to Guru's blessings, really, that everything, the way it worked out. And then later, so then finally, that was in 2013. In 2015, I went to Nepal for the first time to see Guru. This was in Sindhupalchok. So that was the first time I went for the puja, where I got to see Guru directly. And I wanted to see, like, I have to see things for myself, really. I'm like that, you know, I have to see it myself to believe it, and so on. So, and when I saw it, you know, I was, it just doesn't seem human. Like, I have to say that. It's something so beyond what we understand. And then, like, in 2014, and I think somehow I feel deep down maybe this was also like Guru's guidance and Guru's blessing. Like, I met Garchen Rinpoche in 2014 in Arizona in November, and that changed my life completely. I mean, I'm still here right now. That's where I am, in Garchen Rinpoche's place, and I've been here since then. And Garchen Rinpoche, like a mother, just like took me and took care of me, and from zero, really, I didn't know anything. He gave me everything. He sort of poured the Dharma into my mind from the very beginning, like, and the preciousness of that, to have found this kind of being, you know, and he's my guru, he's my root guru. And so is, in a way, Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru, and I don't think there's a contradiction to have multiple gurus, and I've asked people about that as well. And somehow I feel that whole path, there has been this guidance and like this blessing and this connection from Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru. So I have a lot of faith, I have a lot of trust in him, and I know that he is pure. And I know that the Dharma he's teaching is pure. And I know that the community, for the most part, I mean, I can't really say I've never met every single person, just what I have seen myself. That's all I can speak for. Like, the people that I have met are so pure and so beautiful and so good, actually. I mean, I've never really encountered, outside of like Dharma circles, you don't really see these kind of people. And it's really special and it's really important, and I think it's so necessary in this world right now. Like I mentioned all this earlier. So this is kind of, okay, I'm going to check one more time. This is, I think, the last. I think that was everything, really. So that's basically what I have to say right now, what came into my mind. And I know I just like talked a lot. I was actually worried that I would not have anything to say, but then so many words came out of my mouth just now. And I'm just very sincerely, really, I pray that this situation be resolved in a way that's fair, in a way that's truthful, and in a way that allows Guru, Mahasambodhi Dharmasangha Guru Lopam, right, who I believe, like, possibly since Buddha Shakyamuni is like the greatest thing that Nepal has to offer to this whole entire world, right? And instead of trying to destroy this beautiful thing, like, I hope that there's a shift in Nepal where, and I love Nepal, I have to say. I'm born and raised in America, but I feel like Nepal is really my second home. And it's my favorite country in the world. And I love Nepal, and every person I've met in Nepal are just like the sweetest, most beautiful people. And I love everybody in Nepal, and even those police and government and medias who are doing this whatever right now. I love all of them so much. I love them, really. And I love Nepal. It's a special, special place. And I really hope that soon this whole attitude shifts towards Guru and towards the Sangha. And all of these, like, ridiculous, I have to say, wild, crazy, absurd accusations, they just collapse and fall away, and the truth can shine forward. So I really, really pray for this. And maybe in the future, if there's something else needing to be said, then I can share that later. So I'm just going to end here with a prayer that whatever I may have said here, may it bring benefit and happiness to all sentient beings, one way or the other. And may bodhicitta, the heart essence of awakening, wherever it has arisen, may it continue to arise and increase. And where it has not yet arisen, may it come forth. And we really need that in this time. So may it arise. And may all beings benefit. Shayagi Vahankya, Maitri Mangalam. So